Boom. There we are. Ah, yes. Will you
We're doing it.
yeah, real quick though, Nathan, will you tell me if hold on. If you still see us moving now. It's all still
What do you
working on
mean?
there. On the I
Seems to
thought you
be.
had the stream up for some reason. You usually do.
I do. I do.
Are we still moving now?
Although we just started on YouTube. Twitch. We seem to be frozen.
Hmm. Okay. It's doing something that's differently than it's done before, so just checking. But yeah, let's hop into this thing. Let's talk about football. Let's do some stuff.
Of course. Of course. When the stream came back, it was like Nathan is picking his nose. Jesus Christ.
Ain't that
Um,
just the way?
I think we're frozen on. Okay. I think we're back. I think we're
Okay.
back up. What was happening?
It's I don't know. It's doing something different. So I use the video overlay from Discord for this, and so if I minimize the overlay, then it goes away completely, and it doesn't work. But if
Hmm.
usually I can click away, and it's fine. But today it's not doing it the way it has in the past. So I don't
Hmm.
really know. Let me make sure there's not match title otherwise. Capture method automatic.
Me just like adjusting my midstream.
Very good. You've disappeared. You've stopped working actually.
Yeah.
You back, you're back.
Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down.
Okay.
You make one change to your stream and everybody freaks out. We're all fine.
Okay.
All right,
You ready
let's
for this
do it.
thing? Okay.
Professionals, industry experts.
Industry
Number
experts.
number 2 in the nation in picking games last week was yours truly. Not bad for an English teacher. Powerful energy.
Eat a single mini peanut butter sandwich from Trader Joe's to get my engine revved.
Get it where it should be. Get the blood sugar correct.
That's what I do.
I
Just need
I
a
have
jolt.
been mainlining candy corn
Hell yeah.
today, so I'm really riding that high.
Yeah, you're really in the season now. I've been seeing everybody
Yeah,
talk about
I'm a pumpkin spice girl now.
Yeah. It's really all about the candy corn. All right. I'll hit us with the intro.
Yeah,
and
you
we'll
ready?
hop in here. Yep.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Chapel Belker, stats focused podcast about UGA football. I'm Justin.
And I'm Nathan.
And we had a hell of a weekend there, y'all. I mean, it was something. It was definitely a football game. It seemed like there were all the pieces that make a football game, but it was a real whomping that we got to see our Georgia Bulldogs pull over on these Vanderbilt Commodores. But we'll get into the stats, what we can take away, what this game did show us, and we'll talk about what it didn't show us, because there was plenty to still see, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We have some nice takeaways, some prediction reviews, ask CBCs. You know the game plan. You know how it works. But
Lots of Ask CBCs.
oh yeah,
There's
so many
not
ask CBCs.
this is a kind of a light on impact game.
Yeah, but I know we'll also talk a little bit about what else happened around the league as well, because there were some interesting games happening out there. But before we get to that, I would love to hear about your experience this weekend, Nathan, because I know it was different than it normally is.
Yeah, I was at home. This was a small derbies game for the Redcoats, so I didn't. They only took about 40 people, and I didn't go. I've been to the Vandy game before. It's actually really fun. Nashville's a cool town, and it's a very high school-y stadium, and I don't mean that in a I don't know,
Derogatory way.
in
Yeah.
an insulting way. Yeah, it just feels very pure. It's just like a small little stadium. I like it a lot. Feels like you're very close to the action. But so I was at home with my wife. It was a wonderful day. I got up late. I slept in. I got up and watched the end of game day, and then I kind of flipped around trying to find our game because it was sort of in ESPN hell for a second.
It was.
And then I got the game, and I don't know. I mean, it was one of those things where Samantha slept in later than I did because we had stayed up really late the night before, and she was awake, but she was just like in the bedroom hanging out. And she came outside at like 12:20 or something. She came out to where the TV was, and she was like, "What the hell is happening? what is going on right now? Because she was like, I didn't even know the game had started, and we're up like 28-0. And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, I, s- I thought it wasn't going to be competitive, but whenever I say that, there's just like there's a little part of me every time that I predict a non-competitive game that's like, and this is when we get totally blown out, and I get famous not for my predictive prowess, but for the one time I got it really wrong, and there's just like a
Yep.
little twinge. And so like I think last week was really the first time that I predicted a blowout where I was like, no, this is going to be a blowout, and if it's not, it's because like God intervened somehow. But she didn't, and here we are.
Hmm.
And then the rest of the day I got to flip around and watch TV. It was a really great day because I sort of like made a list of things to do around the house for myself, including putting up some pictures behind me so that my
Look
stream
at
setup is
you.
not quite so like barren and sad. I kind of looked like I was being held hostage in like some Bulgarian prison or something previously. So I feel like there's a little more color in
Yeah.
the screen. And I decided like if I do this list of things around the house and I shave, I'm just gonna do nothing the whole day, and I'm gonna feel really powerful. And I did, and I basically just watched college football for like 12 hours. It was amazing. It's everything I thought it could be. It's the
Yeah.
first Saturday in like a month and a half that I haven't gotten like 25,000 steps or more, and I feel so well rested. I feel just so energetic and excited to get out here with you and just play in this space. How was your
Yeah.
Saturday?
Just playing this space. It was great. I kind of had a day to myself in the morning there. I went out and about and ran some errands, but I did my ATHAF training in the morning, got to do that, and then I got to go and speak for the annual Dog Day of Service, which was really cool. And then after that, I just kind of wandered around downtown. I had a sandwich. I sat in the college plaza right across from the arch, which was really nice, and just kind of walked around. I got to see like the status of the all the construction going on downtown, and by the time the game started, like I was trying to make a point to get downtown so I could like kind of watch on my phone the game while I was kind of sitting right there in the plaza downtown. But by the time I got there, it was like maybe 12:10, 12:15, and it was already well out of hand. And I was like, well, I wonder what other games are going on. So I just spent kind of the early afternoon bopping around, watching other games, and there was plenty of football to watch. And Team Chaos was very alive on Saturday, which I really enjoyed for all of that. And following that, though, I got to go out to Terrapin and celebrate a friend's 30th birthday party. It was 90s themed, and yours truly dressed up as Dwayne The Rock Johnson, a la 90s style, with his black turtleneck, chains, and fanny pack. It was probably the most comfortable outfit I've worn in quite some time. And yeah, I really enjoy, like, whenever anybody says like it's a theme party, Anna and I go all out. Like, it's a costume party now. Like, if you say any sort of thing that we need to look like or do beforehand, like, you can count on us to do the thing.
Go hard in the paint.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
ready. And
I
so it
respect
was
that
great.
about you as a couple.
Yeah, and she was denimed out, super denimed. She got a bucket hat, little Britney Spears shirt that she's pretty much been wearing since then, just because it's a super nice little sleep shirt now. Because everything in the
Your
'90s was too big.
your wife is a gorgeous woman, but I
Hmm.
don't know that anyone has ever put a bucket hat on and it's been like, oh, now you're sexier. Like you're a better looking person now that the bucket hat's on. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's sort of like it's like fashion prophylactic. I think
Yeah, it,
it's really powerful.
it is really powerful in many ways that I've yet to understand. And so maybe she'll put it back on. Maybe she won't. We'll see what happens. But that was kind of my experience. And I got to watch at Terrapin with those friends. Many of them were NC State graduates. And so they were
Oh
absolutely
Lord.
enamored by the enamored and hammered. That should be on a shirt. Chapel Bell Curve, enamored and hammered. They were absolutely enamored by the game with Clemson. And we had one Clemson graduate there as well. So it was a
Oh
good
no.
mixed crowd. Yeah, and the Clemson grad was very much like this, the kind of had the kind of swagger that you would expect from somebody that went to Clemson, because it was the same sort of like Dabo Swinney swagger, like even if we lose, it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter,
Just
whatever.
just little me, just little me, old
Yeah,
Clemson.
we'll be fine.
It's great.
Don't think about
It's great
us.
when they act. It's great when they actually are little me. You know what I mean? Like they
Hmm.
really are just some
Exactly.
farm school or whatever.
But I would love
Uh,
to talk a little bit more about those games once we get through our own game.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
What do you say? You want to hop over? We're on
yeah,
game on paper for this one, and we
yeah.
will begin dropping these in. We drop them in our Discord while we talk about.
I will put them in the Twitch chat and the
Yep,
YouTube chat right now.
that sounds great. We would love to do that. And we'll, if you ever want to hop over on our Discord, we talk about it all the time. It's just $1, and we put all this information, all the show notes, all of the access to the stats, and Nathan's going to talk, I'm sure, a little bit more about what he's been working on with one of our stats friends on our Discord, and we'll talk about those that
This
data
is
as well.
absolutely the tip of the iceberg. That these stats that we're sitting out right now are not even our stats; they're just a website that we really like. So this is like the absolute tip of the iceberg. What you guys are about to see if you click on the link I'm about to send out. So, it's one of those things where oftentimes I think that it's really powerful to have these advanced metrics where it's like they can really tell you a story about of a game that maybe you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, or they can illuminate and provide context to a story that you already have. Like if you're there in person and you have the advanced stats, oftentimes it just adds, I think, a level of depth and color to the experience after the fact. But this is one of the very few games that I've ever pulled stats on that was a conference game where it's just like, yeah, we beat that ass.
Sure did.
It's like Kirby got up and was like, today is the day that I beat ass. And then 8 hours later, 62-0. He probably just didn't want to answer. My conspiracy theory is that he didn't want to answer the questions about scoring 69 points. So he intentionally didn't score 69 points. And so, but I mean, there's really if you look at the win expectancy graph in this, it's like,
It's a flat line, dude.
it's like 98.2 is the lowest it gets for Georgia. It's just like all red. There's nothing in the Vanderbilt side. This was a game where if we just look at EPA, which is one of our favorite collective sort of advanced metrics that tells you what sort of how many points per play you are adding to your offense just based on the results of the play. UGA's total EPA was 17, 2.53 penalty EPA, -2 special teams EPA, 17 offensive EPA. Vandy's total EPA was -43. Vandy ran 5 more plays than Georgia had points.
Ooh, it feels bad to laugh, but
UGA had a 74. Okay, stop rate, right? Stop rate is the percentage of runs that you stop before 2 yards. Okay, like 0, 1, or 2 yards. Vandy's stop rate 74%. Right, Vandy had 17% of their plays that they snapped the ball. They had a havoc play result on offense. They gave up 4 tackles for loss. They only gave up 1 sack, but it didn't matter. 5 passes defense, 2 picks, 1 fumble forced. Like, this game is just it was not competitive in any way.
yeah.
Vandy had a Vandy had a power run success rate of 0. They ran 27 times on 46 plays, and they had 36 O-line. They had 1.34 O-line yards per carry, which UGA's was also pretty bad. But still, 3.57 per rush opportunity, 67 plays, 46 scrimmage plays. They only had 2 explosive plays the whole day, and even those were barely explosive by definition. Mike Wright went 3 for 9, 16 yards, 1 interception, 41.7 QBR. Ken Seals 2 for 9, 8 yards, 1 pick, 1 sack, 7.8 QBR. Not 70.8 QBR. 7.8 QBR. I thought JT Daniels looked really good. 9 for 10, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, 79.2 QBR. I thought that, the one drop that he had on the day the one incomplete pass he had on the day was just a complete drop on the receiver's part. I think that was a Justin Robinson part, because I think that was when I made an unflattering comparison to Matt Landers.
Yeah.
This was not a very competitive game, and there's really not a lot else to say about it other than that it wasn't competitive. If we look at our, I guess the biggest thing that it did, if we look at our advanced stats update, is that it boosted some of UJ's offensive stats. So what's crazy is this game was in garbage time for, like, I guess 75% of it was in garbage time, basically.
It was in garbage time before the end of the first quarter. Yeah.
So my stats are just ranked on non-garbage time snaps. So that's when you're winning by less than 25 points. So UGA moved up several ranks. They're the 29th ranked EPA offense. They're 42nd in SR, 49th in explosive, 60 in stuff rate, 56th in line yards, 108 in rush EPA. That's probably the worst stat on the day. 14th in pass EPA. You know, I mean, first in defensively, first in EPA, 12th in success rate, first in explosiveness rate, 17th in the stuff rate, 26th in line yards, 7th in rush EPA, second in pass EPA, first in tender down EPA, second in pass down EPA. Just an absolutely dominant. This has been just an absolutely dominant team. And basically, the most significant thing about this game was that A, to my knowledge, there were no major injuries, and B, it improved our national ranks, and some of the metrics are starting to catch up with how good we've been playing. We took over first place in the SP Plus rankings today. And I think that part of that is sort of like a correction to how UGA has been breaking its own curve, right?
Yeah.
If we set up a basically preseason metrical curve of here's based on, you know, returning production, stability, returning talent, returning, you know, stats. Here's basically what we expect UGA to do. UGA has basically outperformed that in every way possible. The only time they haven't covered is in South Carolina, and that was on a late backdoor cover by South Carolina. I think it's the third team. Every other time they covered the spread, it's been by more than 10 points. I mean, great teams destroy bad teams. And in the past, like in the Mark Richt era, I remember when I was in school, you know, in the 2010s, early mid 2000s, there was a lot of talk about how, like, well, why does UGA play down to the level of its competition, right? And some of that is discipline, right? But some of it is the fact that the gap between UGA and its lowest competition was much smaller, right? UGA did not really even have, we didn't really even have our A game against Vanderbilt. Like in some ways, like the offensive line was rotating a lot. The pass blocking was kind of just so. The defense played really well, but there were a couple of times where they lost contain, right? But it just didn't matter because, like, they actually pointed this out on the broadcast, and I thought it was one of the highlights of the broadcast because there were some not definite low lights to the broadcast, which was one weird thing about watching the game. But they put it on the broadcast that, like, there was a play where Jalen Carter got a tackle for loss, like, you know, within the Vanderbilt, like Vanderbilt was backed up into its own territory, and it was a play where, you know, we didn't fill the run very well, and we'd actually lost like gap soundness on the run. But Jalen Carter is just a 5-star freak of nature who is, like, you know, 300 pounds and runs, and so he just clotheslined the guy, and then he fell over, and it's like that's. It doesn't really matter what happens next week. This is a special season. It doesn't really matter what happens. I mean, it does. It does. What makes a special season is the results of the game. But I think it's worth noting and pausing that, like, when we start, okay, so like in 2017, when we started this podcast, right? One of our sort of founding premises was like, nobody's saying that UGA is as good as they are. This is a team that should beat Florida easily. This is a team that could go to the SEC championship. And then it happened, and one of the things that we talked about was like, hey, savor this moment. This hasn't always been the experience at UGA. There are a lot of times when Georgia just hasn't lived up to its hype. And it's like, even then, we were constantly, like, even when we were at our zenith in 2017, right, there was still a feeling, to at least to me, that, like, we're not to the Alabama level yet, right? We have a bunch of special senior players, and we're playing very special football right now, but, like, we don't have the depth that Alabama has, which was proven correct when we played Alabama and they beat us with backups, right? We are Alabama now. Like, my takeaway from this game, and I'm happy to hear, like, whatever else you think, but, like, my biggest thing is, like, we have an above average offense right now. And if you just take the pass offense, we're way above average. We have better depth than anybody else in the country. We are, you know, even on the plays that I hate, that I don't think we should be running, we have, like, you know, a 50% success rate on, right? We have a run offense that looks basically just competent, if not good. You know, like, this is a team that should go to the national title, and this is a team that, like, if you were taking UGA versus the field for the rest of the year, you still take the field because Alabama exists. But if you took UGA versus everybody but Alabama, all 129 teams, you'd take UGA right now. And that's not been true since we started this podcast.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There were always question marks out and about. But it's absolutely true. Like, this, I've been kind of having moments where I kind of reflect on how far we've got this season, and then I reflect on past years, and just, this feels very different. And the numbers back that up as well. Every game we've had so far has just kind of really, truly backed that up. Like this game, I will say, like I was joking earlier about how you don't want to laugh at them or, they're already dead kind of thing. And anybody want to see a dead body, et cetera, with this Vanderbilt game. But this game, I feel, says more about Georgia and how far they've come and how the philosophy has changed for this team more than it does for any amount of problems that the Vanderbilt football program has right now in this moment. I think it says a lot more about Georgia overall and how well they are playing. And it shows in the numbers. I mean, these aren't just numbers that a good team does, that a good team puts up against a bad team. These are the kind of numbers that a great team puts up against any team. And that's kind of how I feel about it. And I feel very strongly going forward that we're going to continue putting up these sort of numbers. Yeah, and especially as we the Death Star itself becomes fully operational as the season goes on, and we get people back off the injured reserve list. So, man, oh man. But do you want to? What else do you have to say about this offense and just kind of the pieces and maybe the philosophy and maybe the identity of this offense going forward, how it has changed, and what do we know now that we didn't know before the season started?
So EPA wise, we're not running the ball very well, but it's one of those things where, and I think we have a couple of questions about this in Ask CBC, where it's one of these things where like it doesn't super matter. We're running the ball slightly more than we pass the ball. We've run 141 run plays and 122 pass plays. We have way more yards passing. We have 1,144 pass plays or pass yards, and we're averaging 9.38 yards per play on passes versus 4.79 with runs. We have a 51% success rate on passes versus 46% on runs. It's like, as a running offense, we don't have a great EPA and we're getting stuffed too much. And there's just too many times where the play just doesn't work. But when it works, it's actually working pretty well. We have a pretty good highlight yards rank on the year. Our most run play to this top point is still inside zone read, which we've run 47 times this year for a 17.87 share of our plays and 48.9 per 4% success rate. These are all these stats are courtesy of SEC StatCat. So it's like, it's one of those things where we clamored for years and years and years for like, open up the offense. It doesn't matter. You don't win championships with running anymore. You have to be able to throw the ball down the field. Well, this is what you get. Like this is us. We have done it. We are opening up the vertical pass game, right? And we're still running, and maybe we're running a little bit more than we should. But I mean, ultimately, I think that the future of this offense is in its pass game. And I also think that once we get back some players that, we're going to see the run game kind of open up a little bit more. I think we've really wished, there's a lot of talk about like, well, do we need Darnell Washington because we have Brock Bowers? And like, I would say we do. Well, not a lot, but some people are saying this. But like, I would say we do, because as special a season as Brock Bowers has had, and we should talk about that, one of the things we've really missed this year is Darnell Washington's or his run blocking. He can be a very dominant run blocker when he really gets engaged. And I think actually one of the low key stories is that it hasn't looked great when John Fitzgerald has been pass blocking or rush blocking this year. And I think a lot of the problem that we're having with the inside zone read is that basically the strong side of the formation becomes the backside if you're running split zone, but sometimes depending on the blocking scheme, the strong side of the formation is the backside, that you're supposed to go inside, backside, front side. And I think we have a lot of guys leaking through what is the play backside, but it's actually the strong side of the formation. And a lot of times they're coming through that like C gap between the tackle and the tight end. And there have just been several times where you see guys like cut across the back of the formation behind the offensive line, because they were able to just cut under the like whatever blocking was out there. So I think getting Darnell Washington back will open up the run game a little bit. I think just like usually hasn't really needed to run it, so the success or failure hasn't mattered. But I think that maybe if they had to muscle through for a yard, they would be a little bit more creative than just inside zone reading out of 11 personnel, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is, right now per SP Plus, this is like a top 30 offense, and I think that it will be the rest of the year, and I think it'll trend up.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got a good question on the Twitch chat.
Hit us with it.
Let me add this to. Well, yeah, I mean, this is more of an Ask CBC question, so I'll add it to the rundown.
That sounds great.
Do you have any observations?
I mean, the biggest thing just comes from the stats. Like it's nuts to look down like just the game stats overall and see how many single digit um, numbers that Vanderbilt put up just across the board. And then even once it is into double digits, it's not very high. But this was just a absolutely dominant game, and I don't foresee it changing all that much in mini games going forward. Like I feel like this is here to stay. This is not a fluke. This is not a flash in the pan. This is going to be something we're going to see going forward. And I said it last week that, before last week, I didn't necessarily trust or believe entirely that this is who we are now. It felt more like a 2021 thing, or just how we're playing and how well we're playing, and the way that we've changed our offensive scheme. But this is how we play now, and this is who this team is now, and it's very, very exciting. It's very exciting. This is a very special team, even more special than the team that we said was the most special team we could have seen back in 2018. Like, yeah, I mean, that's my biggest takeaway is just
Jordan Daniels. So
Jordan Davis.
Sorry, not Jordan Daniels. JT Daniels had 20 snaps in this game, in a game that we won 62-0. Jordan Davis had like 10. I think he might have had like 9 or 8 or something. Like, those are your two best players, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when you bring in the second team? You trot out guys who would start on 98% of teams, including most of the SEC conference. Yeah. Right? Like, Jalen Carter starts on Florida's team. He starts in Arkansas. Dude. He starts everywhere.
And Jalen Carter,
except maybe Alabama.
He played.
And honestly,
man.
He probably starts on Alabama's team. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna like try to leave some of the Arkansas preview stuff for the actual Arkansas preview episode. We're getting questions about Arkansas, but I would say that the line is 18 right now, and we had a discussion on our Discord about how, Vegas is trying to lurch back the line because they've been underestimating UGA lines. I think 18 is probably a little high, but if you gave me, UGA minus 10, I'd have to think about it. If you gave me UGA minus 9.5, I think this is about 11-point game per. There's about an 11-point game per SP plus, and to me that feels a little big. But if UGA won this game, 28-14, would we be shocked? I mean, I think it's one of those things where, and I don't want to spoil the Arkansas preview, but it's like the things that Arkansas does well and wants to do, UGA is good at stopping.
Yep.
Right, and the thing that UGA does well. The thing that UGA does well, Arkansas is also okay at stopping, but they're not as dominant at stopping. So I think ultimately, this is Arkansas team is playing they're womping teams. They're playing old slobber knocker physical football, and it's you know what, motherfucker, we are the ones who knock. We are the ones who womp. If there's anybody getting womped on this game, it's not us, right? We're only getting womped in this game if we have a bunch of injuries and we turn the ball over 4 or 5 times, but that's not a womping.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how the 5-6 weeks ago, I did not expect the hardest game or the highest ranked game that we'd be playing to be Arkansas next weekend. And then after that, we got a big Florida game coming up soon after that. And so it's and Florida looks really good per SP plus. Arkansas doesn't look nearly as good as Florida does. Florida just went up to number 4. And I'm still kind of in disbelief that SP plus has liked us as much as it does right now to put us at number 1. It's just kind of nuts. But what else do you have to kind of say about this game, as far as takeaways go, before we get into some next segments?
I really don't have much left. I think this is a team that is doing that. There's not a single thing that we've asked them to do that they haven't done. It seems like the experiment O-line is paying off. It's paying off. I don't think it's settled. I think there are a lot of combinations. I think on JT Daniels' last series, we saw Sawyer at left guard and then Broderick Jones at left tackle. I wouldn't be surprised to see that even against Arkansas. I think right tackle is pretty unsettled. I thought Warren Erickson looked like he was just really hot and cold. And, he's playing out of position, and I get that. He's a center by nature, and we're asking him to play right guard. But I just think that there were times when Warren Erickson looked really good, and a lot of times against the run, I think. And then there were times against the pass where it was just pretty bad. So I thought that, what do you say about Brock Bowers, man? He's the size of a tight end and he runs like a wide receiver. and you hand him the ball in a jet sweep, and he runs it 30 yards for a touchdown. Like what? I mean,
He's so
insane.
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's a freshman. He's a freshman. You get 3 more years of him. He's not no Sean Marino. We're going to use him for all he's worth. It's clear that we want. It's clear that we want to target him because he's just open all the freaking time.
All the time.
And I don't see that really changing. I don't think. I think that if we see Darnell Washington come back, we're definitely going to see some more like 12 personnel. I think a world in which you have Darnell Washington, Jermaine Burton, Brock Bowers, and whatever your Z, whoever you want to put out there, Z or X or whatever, you just, if you run that out there in 12 personnel, it's like, how do you stop that, right? Like, even if you go into cloud defense, they're just going to sit down in the cloud and they're going to run little comeback routes all day. They're going to run crossing routes underneath it. Like, I think Brock Bowers is such an incredible weapon. And we at the beginning of the year when George Pickens got hurt, and we were like, well, you kind of got to do it by committee, and you got to do it by like, no one's going to really replace George Pickens' production and who he is to this offense. And that's still true. But it's like, did any of us think that the answer was going to be the person who replaces George Pickens on offense is a 19-year-old tight end from Napa, California, who is really closer to being a tall wide receiver?
Yeah. He and JT just have the California, that California connection, baby.
I mean, at this point, it's like, I think it is what it is. I mean, he's a ridiculously good receiving threat, and if he continues to have the season that he's having right now, he's going to be the best. It's going to be the best season from a Georgia tight end as a freshman ever, and maybe the best season from a Georgia tight end, period. Yeah. Like that's the pace that he's on.
We've just never used tight ends in this way, I feel. Like this way, in this way,
I don't know if we've had
efficiently.
one this good.
No.
Yeah, but we haven't. I think that he's I think that part of it's talent and part of it's that we finally have an offensive coordinator who knows how to who knows how to ride the hot hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there were so many targets on the day. I guess my biggest takeaways, some of the takeaways from this game, I will say, are just some of the players that we have doing what they're doing. Like Ladd McConkey, awesome. Brock Bowers, incredible. I was really impressed once he shook off the cobwebs. Dejon Edwards, near the end of the game there, running the ball and really kind of commanding the run game.
He's a real short yardage threat, I think.
He is. He is just a little bowling ball that we threw in there, and he was making holes himself, and he was doing the thing. We get to see him for another year at the very least. And and Jalen Carter, really. I think Jalen Carter, near the end of the game there, was able to kind of show that even after this year defensively, I think that we're still going to have the depth that we want and need, and we are truly building a team that is a year-to-year threat and not just a flash in the pan. Like
absolutely agree.
The generational programs that we have, like the once in a generational program, like that LSU team. Like this is not that. This is something different, and it'll continue well past these folks have left. So
absolutely agreed. Absolutely agree.
So, few games around the league that I think were also really exciting that I want to talk with you a little bit about. And some of them have, a couple of them have some implications that kind of are relevant to us, whereas one of them is just kind of it would have had implications had our season looked different. The one that I'm talking about is the Clemson and North Carolina State game, where North Carolina State squeaked out a win at the end of that game, because it was one of those things where it was North Carolina's game to lose at a certain point. Because they missed 3 field goals and they had more than 40 more plays than Clemson on the day. It was just a wild time, and Clemson just look shook is the thing. Like, they cannot get started offensively for some reason. And somebody said it the other day that they were like, I think DJ's seeing ghosts out there. Like, DJ got rocked so hard that he's just afraid at this point of what might be lurking on the other side of his offensive line after that Georgia game. And so the reason why I bring this one up is one, because of I just enjoy the schadenfreude of Dabo Swinney having such a terrible time. But two, our season, we'd be questioning this Georgia team a lot more if our season was going differently than it had since this Clemson game, because there were a lot of offensive question marks coming out of that game, I know, but I think that we've answered those questions in stride, and it's just not really an issue anymore. If we weren't scoring, we were having closer games with Vanderbilt, for instance, we'd be looking at this game, this Clemson game, and thinking like maybe Georgia's not really as good as that number 2 slot, and we'd be questioning it a lot more. But
Yeah,
what? Yeah.
it to me, this game kind of puts in perspective what a special effort this team. Special is such a horrible word. It really puts into perspective how meaningful the efforts of that team this team in the Clemson game were. I mean, it was a game where you were massively undermanned. You had all these guys out, and it wasn't pretty, but you came out and you got the win. And honestly, if you played this game today, it's probably like, I mean, if you play this game not as the first game, if this game was game 4, I think Georgia probably wins by like 24 points.
Yeah.
Like, no joke. Like, I think, the score might be like 24-3 or something, but like, I just think that this is a game where this could have, like you said, radically changed it would have been even like understandable had it radically changed how the season went, because with the sort of mitigating circumstances with all the injuries that you had, I mean, it would have made sense if Georgia had lost this game. And it's really interesting how you think about like what might have been, because it's like part of the reason that Georgia is just like in the catbird seat, really, right, is like you can't really afford a loss, but ultimately, like, the goal is to win every game. And if you lose a game to a good opponent, you're probably still okay. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, we probably got to beat Florida to go to the SEC championship. But if you lose to Arkansas this weekend, which I don't know that I think that we will, but if you lose to Arkansas this weekend, you still have a lot in front of you, right? And it's just one of those. It's obviously a weird year. You've got playoff contenders losing or looking bad all over the place. And one of the reasons that, this weekend was, like, I think a certified blood week, but one of the reasons that I thought it was really interesting thinking about that in regards to Georgia was that, like, it was certified blood week, but it just didn't matter for Georgia because they're playing a nobody team and they won by 62 points. And it was like, whatever, moving on, womp womp, right? And like, I just think it's one of those, like, you look back at it now and you're like, man, dodged a bullet, because this game is this whole season is radically different if you lose that game.
Yeah. Other game that's really interesting to look at.
Saves the season.
Yeah. This Kentucky South Carolina game. This was an interesting game as well. But you've been talking a lot about how if we end up seeing a team like Iowa in the playoffs, for instance, that it's kind of Kirby Smart's bread and butter. It's what he wants, and I think that that's exactly what we might see in this Kentucky team this year. Kentucky won 16-10 against South Carolina. It was just it was a really slow game as far as, just not a whole lot of explosive plays going on, just kind of beating each other back and forth down the field. But Kentucky, from start to finish, it was in their favor the entire time. Not nearly as favorable as the Vanderbilt game with us, but there was not a moment in the game per win probability that it ever swayed in South Carolina's direction. But what is something that, looking at this game, that you can expect to, I guess, look forward to with this Kentucky game with us?
I think this Kentucky team has a good rush offense, and having a good rush offense but a flawed pass offense. When passing, they had a 41% success, like EPA success rate. Overall, their total EPA was -3 because their total offensive EPA was -3. It's honestly, like, it's one of those games that I was very worried about like 2 weeks ago. I'm a little bit less worried about right now because, I mean, if you have this is a team that UGA scored 40 on. And if you can only put 16 on South Carolina, it doesn't make me feel like particularly worried about your ability to make the game close. Defensively right now, I think South Carolina is playing actually like shockingly competent ball. Let me rephrase, not competent. Defensively, South Carolina is playing probably better than you would think that they are, right? But when I look at Kentucky, there are a couple of teams on this schedule, Florida and Arkansas for one, that I'm more worried about now than I was a couple of weeks ago. But Kentucky, it's like, I think they're going to give us a game, and I think, they can really run the ball. And ultimately, like, if you can run the ball, it's sort of a horrible, it's a horrible cliche, but like, it is true that ultimately, if you can run the ball, you can be in a lot of games because you slow the game. You basically make the game shorter.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, like I think Kentucky's a really good story, and I think they're a very good, like, competent team. But like, I'm just trying to pull up my metrics real quick here. No, I don't want Western Kentucky. Just Kentucky. I think we would win the Western Kentucky game. I'm going to say too, based on my metrics.
I don't know, man.
All right. So like right now, Kentucky, 46th on defense, EPA 48th on offense. They are 34th in SR rank offensively. Their rush EPA is 23rd, 33rd rush EPA rank, 40th pass EPA rank, 13th pass down EPA rank. They've had pretty good explosive, and 22nd PPO rank. They've converted on a lot of drives. But, I mean, this is slightly above average defense, slightly above average offense. That's a good team, right? But I don't know that it's necessarily a team that you look at and you think this is a team that's going to give Georgia problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And the final game that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit was just the sort of Auburn implosion at Auburn. They still came in with a win, but barely. They, I believe, went into halftime down 12 points to Georgia State. Again, at Auburn, Georgia State being for the last several years, the dead last program by basically every metric.
Georgia State had a 79% win expectancy in the fourth quarter, right? They end up sort of like imploding at the end. They had a pick six that made it, go from close to not close.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Auburn, man, like you gotta get on that.
Yeah, like
man. I mean, I think it's no secret that like, hate him or love him, that Gus Malzahn did a lot. Let me. How can I say this? Gus Malzahn's offense is maybe like solvable in a way that other offenses aren't if you have elite defensive talent, and that was UGA's ticket to success against him, and to some extent Alabama's.
Mm-hmm.
But he did get a lot out of his team, and the thing is, like right now, Auburn's defense is pretty good. Right? They're really good in explosiveness surrender. They're really good in stuff rate. They're really good in line yards. They're really good in rush EPA. But they played basically nobody, and they just have like an okay offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. Like Auburn hasn't played anyone, and they haven't really done the things that you would like to see an elite team do to not playing anyone.
Yeah.
Right? They scored 70 2 weeks ago, and they're still the 38th EPA ranked. They're 58th ranked in explosiveness, right? And offensively. And so it's like I don't. You play Auburn in Auburn, and you can lose because that's just how Auburn works.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the fear of God in me for them.
No, and I mean Georgia State. What's wild about this is that they had a rushing success rate of 34%, which is really not high, but to be able to put one dude, give him 150 yards on the ground against this Auburn defense, and just absolutely bonkers that. They were able to do that. I mean, in early downs especially, they were much more successful. And so if Georgia State's able to do this, then I can't imagine what this game might look like against Auburn when we do play them later this year. So I am very much looking forward to it, especially after this game. They did actually, Bo Nix got benched. Your boy Bo Nix.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because if he weren't white, he'd be playing a tight end.
Mm-hmm. And the truth. So that's kind of just a little bit.
That's my evergreen hot take.
But yeah, lots of fun going on this weekend. Lots of team chaos. But as far as prediction reviews go, we agreed on most of the things this weekend. But 2.5 rushing touchdowns, we both said over. That was true. 51 points scored, also over. Very true. 0.5 Daniels snaps in the fourth quarter. We both said under. He was gone super early in the game. Beck 9.5 snaps. Did he actually have 9.5? More than 9.5?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
He only had like 3 passes,
handed it off many times.
He had more snaps, yeah.
Cool. UGA punts 2.5 under. That was true. That was you for that one. And then over under most UGA running back touchdowns. We said Zamir White. It was not Zamir White, was it?
No. Zamir White was tied with Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey. So no, it wasn't, but I guess it was.
Gotcha. And then the final score review, you said 51-6. I said 56-3. 62-0. Just one score away from being a perfect score in the eyes of probably our Discord and beyond. But before we get into our Ask CBC, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Not a real commercial break. We're just going to transition for a second off. We'll be right back, those that are watching at home. So stay tuned. All right, and we're back. So we are hopping right into our next segment, which is our favorite segment. It's the Ask CBC segment. It is the one where if you got questions, we attempt to have answers. So if you would ever like for us to answer your questions on the show, be sure to get those questions to us before we record, which we try to let you know when we're going to record through either Twitter or on our Discord, which you can be on for just $1 a month to be a part of this burgeoning community of fine fellow dogs. So, very first question. This is if anything, right at the top, this is going to give you a feeling for what the Discord is really like. But Irk Russell asks, who would win, Vader or Thanos?
Well, if Thanos has the Infinity Gems, it's Thanos, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's
But
exactly.
if it's just like 1v1, I think people underestimate. Like, Vader's a badass. I think 1v1 Vader wins, but if Thanos has the full stones, and maybe even if he has the time stones, I think it's Thanos. But like, Thanos is just like a big purple gremlin dude. I mean, he's not. He's a Titan, and he was. I don't know. I hate Thanos so much. So I'm gonna pick Vader unless he has the Infinity Gems.
Which SEC coaches, or just coaches in general, would you equate to Vader or Thanos?
Thanos is Dan Mullen, because I think that his whole gimmick is bullshit and I hate him. And Vader, I think, is, I mean, it's obviously Vader is Nick Saban. Like he's more machine than man, and he seems like really stiff, but he actually is like a super big badass.
Yeah. R123 More asks, will anyone be able to match up with the juggernaut that is Buffalo Bulls football, excuse me.
Oh my God. So this is a question we got last week. Let me explain this. This is a good time to talk about this. So, and we'll get into this more tomorrow with our Arkansas preview, because we're going to be unveiling something exciting, which is our power rank metric that me and R123 More and Ross R over on our Patreon have been working on. And one of the problems we were having we're going to release the beta, and I guess what we would call the alpha, and the alpha version of our power rank metric, we were having a hard time controlling for opponent, and like we weren't adjusting for opponent and talent enough in a way that was like we didn't have our regression coefficients the way we needed them to. Anyway, there was just a 24-hour period where no matter what we did, the Buffalo Bills were in the top 10. Like the Buffalo Bulls were in the top 10 of our ranking, and we were like, okay, this is how we know that it's
still
not
broken
right yet. This is how we know it's not right. And actually, like, R. Moore and I are, I would say, like, talented hobbyists, and we have help from someone, and I don't want to totally reveal him or whatever. We've helped from someone who is like a statistician by trade, and so we think we're going to be able to get out a really good something akin to SP Plus or SRS or FEI that we think integrates and starts from a really interesting statistical point and integrates a lot of those things that those other systems do, while also working with like some of the newer EPA stats and some of the newer stats that we've had since those metrics were introduced. Ultimately, we think it'll be helpful for our Discord patrons in particular, because I think it's going to let us pick lines really well. The CBCPR, the model that we're on now, went 75% against Vegas last week, which is unsustainably high, but still really good. And we think that it will, I don't know. I think it'll be a really helpful value add for people who want to get on the Discord, because you will have full access to the model and be able to play with it and tune it the way that you want it. And, I'm sure that we will be shilling it around on Twitter and Facebook, etc., over the next couple of weeks. So look for that. But yeah, that's what this question's about.
Industry experts, baby. Second question,
industry
R123
experts. Number 2 in the nation.
Did Vandy die for our sins?
No. The worst part maybe is that they all lived. Now they have to live with the rest.
To live with those sins.
Yeah.
Abby, stage manager for life, asks, how would you describe the Discord chat group to someone who hasn't listened to the podcast before?
It's kind of like what would happen if you made a unproblematic white guy a Discord group, an unproblematic millennial. If you made him a Discord group, that's what it would be. It's like very into enthusiasm, very sex positive, shockingly horny, and obsessed with football somehow. Super into stats, lots of beards, like texting you at all hours of the day, you have to mute his text notifications between like 1 and 5 so you can go to sleep.
Yes, that's correct.
Um,
But yeah, so yeah, that's a little bit about it. Surprisingly horny, shockingly horny. What's your go-to game day meal when you aren't going to the game? What did you eat actually? How did you feed yourself? How did you sustain the many hours of football you watched, Nathan?
Coffee and whiskey was what.
Coffee and whiskey.
No, no,
No
I
calories.
honestly like. I'm a really big. Well, lots of calories in whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm. I know this is weird, but like, I really love breakfast. Like, I don't get to eat breakfast a lot of the time because of just like my schedule and stuff. Or like, I don't get to eat a big breakfast because it would make me feel sick. And so, one of my favorite things to do on Saturdays and Sundays that I have free is I will get up and I will make coffee and I will just sit with like a giant. I have this mug that's from. It's the mug from Knives Out that says like my house, my coffee, my rules or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it's like giant, and I'll just get a giant mug of coffee and eat cereal with milk in like a giant bowl. And then for lunch we had taco stand, and that was
Love a
fried
taco
chicken
stand.
tacos from Taco Stand.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really have a go-to meal because um, when I'm not at the game, I am like super stressed out usually. So yesterday was like the first time that I was like hungry on a game day. Normally on a game day, I'm just like walking around in circles and I'm too nervous to eat, like an expectant father or something.
And in past years,
What
we've
about
just
yours?
gorged ourselves afterwards.
Yeah.
Also really love breakfast. Anna doesn't love breakfast for dinner, which is one of my favorite things to do, and
Oh, I
was
love
growing up.
Brenner.
Love Brenner. We're also a big fans of pancakes in the mornings and watching cartoons before football and things like that. But when I'm not going to the game, it's usually one of my standbys is like Playlock, Agualinda.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend I got to have La Coretta, which is the food truck for Agualinda, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely fantastic. Tacos are our go-to just about all the time. But we do have a saying in our house that goes, do you ever start thinking about pizza and then you can't stop thinking about pizza? And when those days get to us, we have to eat pizza. And
Mm.
fully loaded is a good go-to as of recent. But
My
yeah,
my wife is a beautiful human who I could not be more in love with her, and she's my best friend and my soulmate. But like literally, her only flaw is that she doesn't like pizza.
I didn't know
That's
that about
literally.
her.
I mean, like she'll eat pizza like once in a while,
It's
but it's
just not
just
a thing.
not a thing. And I love pizza, and like every part of our relationship has been so beneficial and good for me, except for the fact that she doesn't want pizza.
Does she have an opinion on calzones?
I don't know. Hey Sam, what's your opinion on calzone? I'm not getting a response, so she's probably either upset at me or she's not in the room. I don't.
That's fair.
I think she's like a once in a while. Like she's not. I think maybe it's just that like pizza often like gives her heartburn or like ups her stomach.
That's fair. I
And
mean,
so it's
Anna
just hard
lives
for her to
with
get past that.
just Tums in her pocket at all times, and so that's how she gets past it.
Yeah.
Next question, Floppy 454. This is Ian. Without using Sanford, UGA, or Athens, build your favorite stadium, campus, and town combination from other options in the SEC. If you're passionate about a combination outside the SEC, feel free to share that one too. You can definitely mix and match.
I'm trying to think.
You've been to a lot
I mean,
more.
to me,
I know. So
yeah. I mean, here you go.
for me, it's like I absolutely love. I love Boone. So App State's town. Really love their town. I really love their campus. I would say. Like I like their campus because it still has that like it has like a rustic feel, but it doesn't feel too small or too big. It still feels very personal, and it's very much like integrated into the town in a similar way to the way UGA is
Mm-hmm.
with Athens, but there is still like a distinct divide here in Athens and UGA. Whereas in Boone, you're there, like you're in the town, and it's not a huge town, but it is. It's very friendly. It's all my favorite parts of Athens, just in the mountains essentially. So I would go for choosing that campus.
Um, campus wise, okay, so I would go Death Valley,
Hmm.
LSU as my stadium. Stadium's just really fun and great, and it's a stadium that's really big, but you still feel close to the sideline. Like I don't know, it's a very like visceral feeling being there. I would go town. Uh, God, in the SEC, I mean, I know I'm disgust myself. I'm about to say these words, but like Knoxville is like a fun town to be
Mm-hmm.
in sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Oxford, but probably Knoxville. If I was going to go outside of the ACC, I would say Asheville. UNC Asheville is technically a college town.
Mm-hmm.
Asheville is technically a college town.
Technically.
And then campus, I would say, honestly, and again, I can't believe I'm about to say these words, but Notre Dame's campus is. It's like if you had a UGA size campus that was all North Campus. It's just
Yeah.
all greens, all quads. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
People are super nice. It's right there next to their downtown, which is like, nothing
Not
that
much.
I would write home about, but yeah. But it's there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would that would be my combo, which is like a really cursed combo, and I can't believe I'm recording that, but whatever.
This is a really deep cut question, I feel, but it's Jay Ashley. How do you think marching band shows would change if they were required to be shown on the TV broadcast for their full duration? It's obviously valuable / expensive airtime, but would there be an evolution of the design execution with more national exposure on these groups? Also, would I have been eligible for NIL money? Jay Ashley being
Well,
a
yeah,
former
you would have
Red
been
Coat.
eligible to hold. Yeah, you would have been eligible for NIL money. You were eligible for NIL money because NCAA athletes are the only people who weren't. I think the change is part of the change that you're already seeing, which is with sort of like trying to search for this like virality of moment, which is like more and more traditional core bands going for more of a like, we're going to spell things on the field. We're going to be more like photorealistic. We're going to try to like, do numbers, letters. We're going to do words. We're going to make, little stick figures and make them run around. And I think you're seeing a shift in college marching band towards those moments, trying to get those moments that are on, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, Facebook, YouTube. And I think that would be one change. I think the other change that you would see if there was just like a lot of required national exposure is that, okay, I'm trying to think about how to say this while being respectful. You would think that it would be 1-to-1, that good marching band programs would have excellent marching bands. Or sorry, that it would be 1-to-1 with good football programs having excellent marching bands. And that's true. A lot of them do. Alabama's band is quite good. Michigan's band is very, very good. Texas's band, very, very good. Right. And of course you have like Miak and Swack, but I'm talking about like Power 5 bands.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that, if you pulled up the top 10 of the AP today, that all 10 of those schools would have really good bands because they were the ones that are going to get the most exposure on TV. And that's not the case. And without calling anybody out, because that's not helpful, and I respect everyone who does this activity, and I think basically that it's just something that needs to happen more, and it needs more exposure. But I think that if you had a level of like, you are on TV, literally just you alone, everyone is watching you for 7 minutes every week, that you would see those inefficiencies where you have programs in areas with high marching band talent with a lot of money in the athletic department having substandard bands. I think you would see that iron out, and I think you would see a closer match between high value athletic departments and high value marching bands. Because one of the things, and this is like a little bit inside baseball, but one of the things is that sometimes that happens through no fault of the band. There's a lot of good people there's a lot of good bands and with a lot of really good musicians who are kind of hamstrung by their athletic department. And I'm not talking about UGA here at all. UGA's athletic department has been great to the Redcoats, but I think it's one of those things that some athletic departments sort of like think that they can just sort of spend the minimum amount of money possible on, right? And I think that if you had a hypothetical where it was like the band is on the primetime ESPN game 7 minutes. I mean, like, I know, okay, like for the Redcoats, if that was the case, like we'd probably, I don't know for sure, but I imagine we'd have to practice more, right? Like to start
Probably,
with, like,
yeah.
Like if you'd have to put more money in the program because
It's going to be on
I
TV.
mean, I don't think you would have to, but I think that like there's like in a world where that is happening, where it's like you are on primetime TV, or you are on the noon, big kick game or whatever, and that you're UGA and you're going to do that every week for the entire semester, except for like 2 or 3, suddenly it becomes really real. And it's already really real. Like it's already intense. It's already high pressure. It's already like, you don't want to be the main character on Twitter. You don't want to be the band that like gets something wrong or accidentally makes a penis on the field or, accidentally makes a swastika. These are all things that have happened to other bands.
Oh boy.
but like that pressure is already there. But I think the amount of pressure that these programs felt would start to be closer to what the pressure the football teams feel right now.
Mm-hmm. Next question from K Sarge. What common household item do you own too much of to be considered quote unquote normal? I always have at least 3 pounds of onions in my house. I don't think that's weird at all. You should always have more onions. Keep them.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a nice lentil stew, anytime you want. You make chili.
I had cockaliki last week. That's leeks, but it was really good.
What is cockaliki?
It's Scottish chicken and leek stew, and it's garnished with fig or prunes. It's very good.
Huh. Do you own too much of it to be considered normal?
Leeks? No. It's just
No.
It's something you can make with onions.
Yeah.
Leeks.
I don't think I have too much of anything in our house.
I'm gonna be quite honest. It's candles.
Just candles. Way too many candles.
We have a lot of candles. We have a lot of candles, which is fine. Maybe I think my wife would probably argue that we have the appropriate amount of candles, but we do have quite a few of them. Oh, there is a kitty sighting.
Yeah. Kitty on the awning there. I probably have too many books, honestly, especially for the size of house we have.
Oh yeah.
Entirely too many books.
Absolutely.
If that's a common household item, I don't know. But second question from K Sarge: who is your favorite player on the defense that will not be leaving for the draft? I think 100% for me, it's Jalen Carter.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter is just a breath of not fresh air necessarily, but just a welcome sight into what is to come, I feel. So, Scuba Dog 97. I'll attempt this, is what they say. How would you compare UGA's recent QB population with characters from The Office? Recent includes the last couple of years through next year's recruits. For example, I totally see Jake Fromm as Jim, calm, direct, yet slightly cantankerous. Then I see Justin Fields as Dwight, probably just as good, a seller of paper, maybe better, but always trying to start shit in the office. This is an intense question. So we've had Jake Fromm, we had Jacob Eason, we had Grayson Lambert, Justin Fields. Now we have all the quarterbacks in the world.
Are you ready? Are you ready for me to sound with a single sentence have our download count?
Yep, go for it.
I've never watched The Office.
I knew the answer to that question.
I really like Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec's great. It's more or less like they took all the problems and problematic issues with The Office and made it better, and then made it a lot nicer, I guess. I don't know, but
I'm not good at embarrassing things. I'm not good at secondhand embarrassment. It doesn't make me laugh. It makes me run out of the room or bury my face in my hands. It's worse than horror to me, and I don't like horror. So I've watched 3 episodes of The Office, and I was like, this is really funny. And I got to the 4th episode, and I was like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'm having a panic attack.
I can't watch
I'm
this.
gonna leave the room.
Yeah. Okay, well, I will answer this question for you as best I can.
Please do. Please.
So,
yes.
It's hard to say. I wouldn't say Justin Fields is Dwight, because Justin Fields was. I think that we learned that he had as someone does who is as good as he is. He's playing in the NFL now. He had a bit more of an ego than we were led on to believe, because he was good. I think you make Justin Fields someone more like Jan Levinson. And that means nothing to you, Nathan. It might mean something to the rest of you, or you make him something like Ryan, who starts as just kind of a backup, doesn't do anything at this branch, but he goes off and becomes, he starts his own company, yada yada. He eventually becomes, I believe, the show in The President at some point. He becomes the president at some point. I don't know, but JT Daniels to me is probably. I want to say he's a lot like Kelly Kapoor, just because he's flashy. He cares about fashion. He cares about things that are aesthetically pleasing and visually pleasing. Those things are all very good. So he's more of a Kelly. Jake Fromm, I think, is fine to be Jim, just because Jim to me is honestly pretty bland. He's meant to be the viewer. Who would be Toby, though? That's the real question. That's tough to say, but Stetson Bennett. This is good audio of me just playing Office Solitaire with myself, I know. Maybe Stetson Bennett's kind of like Oscar Martinez, because he's kind of the backbone of things. He gets the job done. He does what he's supposed to. Or he could be Creed, because he's been there just kind of forever and no one really knows anymore how long he's been there. But those are just a few answers. I'll just throw those out there, give those to y'all. This will probably be a Patreon exclusive, but yeah, there's some office stuff for you.
I think that JT Daniels is the guy who plays Dwight Schrute because you look at him
Rainn
and
Wilson.
you're like, is that guy? Yeah, Rainn Wilson. Because you look at him and you're like, is that guy hot? And then you see like a young picture of him, or you see the right picture of him, and you're like,
I think he's hot.
huh,
I don't know though.
maybe
Yeah,
he's hot. Like, what's going on?
he is hot on the inside for sure. If
Oh,
you're
is
not
my cat
into the
about
way
to
he
jump
looks,
off a balcony?
nah.
Get down. Thank you.
Next question comes from Chromosphere. Chromosphere asks, with game day in town, how does the band prepare since it's a noon game? I'm sure it's going to be a little crazy for you, Nathan.
Yeah.
Noon games are
I don't
the worst.
know if we've had a noon game day at UGA since I've been with the band. I don't think we have at all. Noon games are pretty times tight as it is. You get up at like 5 a.m., and you just, it's like you're going the whole time. 7 o'clock games, there's a lot more time built into the schedule just to sort of like chill. Noon games, it's like practice, go to the MLC, eat, get ready, do the dog walk, go in, play the game. And so it's gonna be crazy. I don't really have a lot of intelligence about in what way it will be crazy because we only got it today. I'm imagining there are gonna be some logistical constraints. Like the way that marching band of the size of UGA works at UGA's, the size of the Redcoats works at home, is that it's sort of like a neurally networked computer where like each node, each human is a different node of the computer that has like certain programming things. And what I mean by that is that it's like you plan everything out in advance, and there's nobody really telling everyone where to go. It's like everybody has the schedule for beforehand, and they have it on their phones. And you do practice, and then like things just sort of roll from there. Like it's impossible for Brett's an amazing band director, but it's impossible for Brett to micromanage. I mean, half of the decisions even that have to get made on a game day, right? So you sort of just like prep everything, you wind up the machine, and then you just let it unwind, right? And then basically from leaving practice at like 7 or 7:30 all the way to the downbeat of the first, the downbeat of Krypton before the game, like nobody's really there are people in charge, right? But it's like it all just sort of happens because we all know what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
anytime you compress that time or you put more logistical strain on the time because you have more people, you have more trucks, you have to deal with parking issues, you have to deal with moving issues, you have to deal with like, okay, well, we can't take the band through here because we have talent there or whatever. Like things just get more stressed. And like on game days in the past, the way we are located with the Redcoat practice field at the IM fields, when they set up game day at the IM or at Myers Quad, it's actually pretty easy for us to avoid. Like we have to send a Derby's gig over there to play usually, but we can basically just like get the rest of the band in short order over to where they need to be, and it's kind of just like a normal day. I know that on noon games, when the game day game is a new game, they will do the last hour in the stadium. So I don't know for sure because then it's told me, but I'm imagining that's going to make stadium entrance and dog walk even more complicated for us. And noon stadium entrances and dog walks are already pretty tight. So yeah, it's a lot.
I think, and a lot of people are talking like, wouldn't it be cool if it got pushed back? Do you know of any precedents of games getting pushed back like this close to game day?
I don't think so. I know that, we kind of learned, this is something that Jashley and I were talking about in the chat beforehand, but like we learned last year that the limit of the rules that they can break is how many rules that they want to break, basically. Like, they can make everything up on the fly if they want. I don't think it's going to get changed because I think they're going to say that there's a rule that they can't. And B, I think that they are trying to counter program whatever the Fox big noon game is, right? So they actually want a big game there on noon. Like, that's what they did with the Notre Dame game at Soldier Field. If you look at it inside of the context of the SEC, it certainly doesn't make any sense with the games that you have scheduled later on. It doesn't make sense with the primetime game being Penn State. The primetime game, I think, is Penn State, Indiana. So it's like it doesn't make sense at all. But I think because there's money involved, it's not going to change.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Money rules the world. It was capitalism all along. Next
Always
question.
was, and then the astronaut shoots you in the back.
Christy in London. An over-under and review show for variety. UGA has 8 remaining regular season opponents. How many of them will score fewer than 9.5 points against us? I set the line at 3.5.
Okay. Charleston
let's see.
Southern. That's one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else is? What's the bottom of the conference? We've already played the
Tennessee,
worst team in the
Missouri,
conference.
Charleston Southern. Those are 3 games I feel could be kept
Georgia
under.
Tech.
And Georgia Tech, that's 4.
What did he put it at 3.5?
3.5 teams, yeah, but 9.5
It's
points.
fewer than 9.5. Oh, I thought it was fewer than 3.
No, fewer than 9.5 points against us.
Oh,
And the line
yeah,
is over
yeah.
under 3.5.
Oh, bang the windmill slam the over.
Yeah.
Because I think because I think if you give me 10 points, I think that gives you Georgia Tech. It gives you Charleston Southern.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you. I didn't think that Missouri looked like particularly good, and I think even maybe Kentucky,
Yeah,
so that's 4.
they're
That's
pretty
the
low
over.
scoring.
I don't know. Now I'm talking myself out of it. Like I'd probably take if I had money on it, I would probably take the under,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's not. It wouldn't be ridiculous to take the over on that.
Yeah. If
It's a
the
well-set
over,
line. Christy
yeah, it's a
in
very
London.
well set line. Yeah. If it were, I think that if the over had a less probability of happening and the payout was more, I would definitely take it. And I think I would take
Yeah.
it regardless, just because it seems likely, and it feels good to say it. Cap Falcon. This is a fun question. What is a survival sim setting, sci-fi, Wild West, jungle, etc., you think is underexplored? What's something unique it would bring to the table that you'd like to see, I guess, in a video game or any other type of media?
I don't think anyone's ever really nailed the Minecraft but sci-fi thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're playing Valheim, which has some Minecrafty elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's really gotten the Minecraft, but so okay, one of the problems I have with survival sims is that sometimes they make the worlds that they're in feel very empty,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I mean, I know you have Ark Survival evolved, but that's that's almost a service game where you're all on these big whatchamacallit servers or whatever. But I don't think that anyone's really nailed it, and I think one of my problems is that even with games I really like No Man's Sky, a lot of sci-fi survival games, it's you have this massive world, and it's just it feels very empty. It
Mm-hmm.
either feels ecologically empty, or it feels empty in the sense that there just aren't a lot of characters in the world. And so one of the geniuses of Valheim is that the biome system makes the world feel very diverse. It makes it feel as though you always have something to discover, and the ease with which it plays and scales in a co-op setting means that you never really feel lonely when you play the game. One of my biggest problems with Minecraft, even though I think Minecraft is a very important game to the history of games, my
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem with Minecraft is that I think it's a really easy to play Minecraft. It just feels sort of this sense of ennui and loneliness.
It does. Yeah, it feels very empty. We played Boundless for a while, which is basically Minecraft, but tighter in some ways.
Online.
And yeah,
Yeah.
still felt very empty at times, even though we were playing with each other. But yeah. Second question from Cap Falcon. On behalf of Abby, how sad are you that they didn't get the last touchdown? I'll forever be disappointed.
Yeah, I wanted 69 to nothing. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to you.
Very best favorite
It would have
number.
made the cold open. It would have made the cold open of this episode way easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
just get. We could have just gotten us being yeah, yeah. It would have just been 2 minutes of 69, man. If we ever score 69 points, you could be damned well sure you can save this audio to be the cold open of that audio. Meh. All right.
Joel asks, what do you call a Commodore without a sense of direction?
Oh, I forgot what the punchline to this joke is. Is he on here? I don't know, Joel.
Oh, Joel, you done
He
did
told
us.
this joke last night. He told this joke last night in the Discord, and I forgot what the answer was. Anyway, we're gonna get it. It's gonna be a very delayed, avant-garde joke here.
It'll be good. I got 2
We'll get the
that
punchline.
are more or less the same question, and I wanted to read them together. My God, a podcast, and Miles, they are asking more or less the same question. My God, a podcast. Can Georgia run the damn ball? Doesn't matter. And Miles asks, what do we need to break open the run game?
I think we need to get the offensive line settled. I think having Tate Ratledge go down, having a right guard go down, right at, during the first game, it had an impact on the team that we had the depth to absorb, but I don't think we've quite evened that out. I think that one of the things that's going to get the run game right is needing to have the run game. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, it
Like
does.
there hasn't really been. I mean, we had one drive against Clemson when we had to have. We were trying to kill the clock in a 4-minute kind of scenario. We had to have the run game, and we had Zamir White come through. Will you stop scratching me, you dumb cat? You can't just lay where my feet are and expect not to have my feet there. Okay. I think I think you're going to see more of Mims. I think that we have some players like I think Warren Erickson is a player. I think Broderick Jones is a player where it's like either they're great in pass protection or bad in run protection sometimes, or the vice versa. And I think the future is probably Broderick Jones at left tackle, Sawyer at left guard, right tackle Justin Schaefer, and then right guard Justin Schaefer, and then right tackle probably a Mims. That's the future.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's like the immediate Arkansas future, but I mean I think that's the answer. And then as to whether that matters, I mean you throw the ball downfield enough, you're going to get holes.
Yeah.
If we can keep I think in time, I think part of our frustration with the run game has been, and I get this from Kirby and Monken's perspective, that part of our frustration with the run game has been that like every time we've run it, everybody in the stadium has known that we're going to run it. Like when you're
Yeah.
up 60, when you're up 53 or whatever, 54 or 55, whatever, and you get the ball back on your own 25 and you have your second team defense in, you're going to run the inside zone because that's the core of your offense. And so, yeah, if everybody knows it, then yeah, they can stop that. Right. And
Hmm.
so it's like, I would have loved to have seen a little bit more ingenuity on that fourth down play at the goal line against Vandy. But it's like, one, you're already up multiple touchdowns. Two, you can win this game even without you can win this game even without a touchdown there. And three, you've already gotten in a quick turn situation like that where you pin the opposing offense back. You've already gotten one safety out of it. So it's like there is literally, if you're trying to figure out what's going on in offensive line, you find yourself in that situation up several touchdowns. It makes sense to run a play that has a high probability of failure just to see if they can execute it.
Hmm. Yeah. Next question from P44 Haynes. How is it possible that Brock Bowers is a time machine and is all of our dads?
Yeah, he does have sort of that like simultaneously your son and your dad vibe. You
He
know what I mean?
does. He has like the dad look of like, sometimes you meet a dad and you're like, oh, you like that's silly dad, and he has kind of that look about him. Like even in his if you look up his photo for the team in his suit and everything, his hair is just kind of like blah, 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 like, oh, you
Yeah,
that's silly dad.
if you like saw him at a frat parent day,
Hmm.
you would have to talk yourself into whether he was a dad or a member. You know what I mean? You would
It
be
could go
like,
either
is
way.
this like a
How
recent
old is that guy?
alumni or a freshman? He's kind of got that Paul Rudd aspect to his looks.
He does, and he looks like he has a little secret. Like his mouth's real small. He's like, I know something you don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Someone was
that.
talking about the fact that someone was talking about the fact that like we have to teach Brock Bowers to smile without looking like it's killing his soul.
Poor guy. It'll be okay, bud. Next question comes from Matt Still Alexander. Hello, CBC folks. I trust you are well. After atomizing the Commodores, land sailors, haha, sheesh. What stops the number 2 dogs from winning the national championship?
I mean, nothing. Alabama.
Alabama twice, potentially, which sucks.
Yeah.
But seems to be how it
Yeah.
always is. I'll let you hit this one because it is very much in your wheelhouse, I think. Both for real and jokingly, because I think that you were originally the origin of the James Bearfield Troll Corner. And so
Mm-hmm.
hit me with what this is trying to tell us, if you could.
All right, this is Nicholas Twiner, and I don't think he's using linguist markup, but he's getting something. Yeah, he's using markup like that linguists use to separate out sentence like syntax or whatever, sentence construction, sort of. And I think he is a linguist. I am not a linguist. But his question is basically, okay, when we say the James Bearfield Troll Corner presented by Cheerwine, trademark sign, who are the trademark signs attached to, right? so we have 3 TMs. We say TM, 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 right?
Yes.
And so is the TM for the James Bearfield Troll Corner? Is it for Cheerwine? Is it for the wine what gives you diabetes, right? So my answer is that if we are doing like brackets,
Mm-hmm.
so the first TM is for Cheerwine, the wine what gives you diabetes. The
Yes.
second TM is for the entirety of the segment name, and the third
Mm-hmm.
TM, that's for the Holy Spirit, who was there all along, or Jesus, who carried you. And there's one set of footprints in the sand.
So there you
Um,
go, you linguists.
yeah.
So speaking of Dr. James Bayfield, speaking of Dr. James Bearfield's Troll Corner, that is the last piece of today's puzzle. That is the Vanderbilt review. So without further ado, here is the Dr. James Bearfield Troll Corner presented by Cheerwine, the wine that gives you diabetes. TM, TM, TM. First question: when Darnell Washington comes back, is he still tight end 1, or is that Bowers now?
I I think he is tight end. Darnell Washington is probably tight end 1, but I think that's sort of a silly distinction because he's going to get a lot of playing time. Bowers is, and I also think that Bowers is getting lined up. I think Bowers is your flex tight end, and Darnell is your inline tight end. Although Darnell is a very good flex tight end as well. I think I think instead of really like who's starting, it's just going to be like UGAs and 12 personnel, like 40% of the time now.
Second question: are people who are scared of butterflies also scared of moths? Uh, I
Ow!
look.
Ow! God damn it, cat! Hey, hey, hey! No, no, no! Now you're getting picked up. No, come here. Hey, come here. Hey, hey.
We lost Nathan.
No, I'm back.
Lost him to the cat.
This is my cat. His name is Zuko.
Meow.
He is a big himbo. He is a big mean muscle boy, and
He
he
sure is.
has these giant. He's actually the sweetest boy. He's God's gift, and I love him so much. But he also doesn't know how to use his claws, and he hurts my feet.
Rude cat.
This is corporeal punishment. This is how I punish my cats: is by hugging them and loving them. Yes, you love me too. Can we get down? I love you too.
So here's the thing: there is a phobia, Nathan. For not one or the other, it's for both. It's in the phobia description called lepidopterophobia, I believe, is the fear of butterflies or moths, but it's specifically not the fear of butterflies and moths.
Oh, you can't have two.
So I don't know if that's important, but if we got linguist questions in here, we got to talk about it.
I mean, I think that it's probably. I think if you're afraid of butterflies, you're almost certainly afraid of moths. But moths freak me out, and butterflies do not.
There's a
It's
big
probably
ass
some kind of
moths out there.
rectangle scale thing, square thing.
Will you share with us a poem that best equates this domination?
Yeah, so I have from Alfred Lord Tennyson. I don't think I'm going to read all 6 chapters of this or stanzas. It's from Alfred Lord Tennyson. This is from the perspective of Vandy. This is called "The Charge of the Light Brigade." Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death, rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade. Was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volley and thundered. Stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode and well into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. Flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volley and thundered. Storm at the shot and shell, while the horse and hero fell. They that had fought so well came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell. All that was less for them left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honor the charge they made, honor the light brigade, noble 600. So yeah,
There it is for you.
It is used in The Blind Side, but this is actually about something in one of the Crimean Wars that Russia got in, or that Britain got itself involved in with Russia. That also sort of was like an outflow of the Russian and British occupations of Afghanistan, ironically. And there was this brigade of light cavalry that got sent in, like, to the face of cannons because of a dumb miscommunication that involved people's honor or whatever. And like, of the 600 of the people in the brigade, like all but 30 of them died. So I thought, that's sort of like the noble heroes of Vanderbilt who ran into the cannons with their sabers.
Sweet boys. As a stats focused podcast, I have a question. What is the success rate of our defensive line shifting all at once? For example, when doing that causes a missed block for a tackle or pulls a penalty. Do you know this?
I don't know that.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that,
tough.
but it is kind of a joke among my friends that every time UGA gets a false start penalty with a defensive line shift, it's like, drink. It's like a drinking game at this point.
And now it is for you as well. Last question. Anchors up, am I right?
Yeah, anchors up, I guess.
Or
anchors
down.
away,
Anchors
my boys.
away. Anchors gone.
Yeah.
Never there in the first place. See us out, Nathan.
This has been Chapel Bell Curve. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere that you can subscribe to a podcast, including Spotify. You can get in touch with us on Facebook by searching Chapel Bell Curve, by email at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, and on Twitter and Instagram at Chapel Bell Curve. Also, we just made a Chapel Bell Curve TikTok. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but we have the handle Chapel Bell Curve on TikTok. We'll figure something out. It's probably just going to be like me from the game posting dumb TikToks or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you'd like to support this podcast, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/ChapelBellCurve. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a rating or review on the Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever. And if it needs to be a bad review, make sure you send it to us so that we see it, because we always like the sauce that the haters make. If you really love this and you want to be part of an excellent community of fellow weirdos over on our Discord, check us out at patreon.com/ChapelBellCurve. We'll catch you this weekend in the Classic City at noon for some reason. But until then,
go Dogs.
Go Dogs.